Good afternoon. My name is Matt Anniss. Welcome to this live edition of RE Exchange here at Inner City Electronic. Thanks to you all for coming down. Today, got some very special guests. I'm sure we don't need to give them much of an introduction. Everybody knows, or most of the people here should know, Orbital. Paul and Phil Hartnoll started out in the late 80s, became one of the biggest acts in British dance music. Most of you have probably seen them live. Let's bring them on. Paul and Phil Hartnoll, Orbital. Oh, thank you.
Oh, nice.
Thanks.
Okay, so how are you doing today? All good?
Very good, actually.
First gig of the year.
Coronavirus hasn't got you yet, then?
Nope, not yet.
That's a good thing. The way it's been
high priority, high risk. I mean,
I'm strong as an ox. I'm fine. Don't worry.
Very high risk.
Yeah.
And,
well, the way it's been panning out is quite dystopian, isn't it? Really, like.
Yeah. We've all seen the films. We know how this this ends. You know.
It's very sci-fi. It seems to be something that would kind of appeal to you because you two both.
Oh, yeah.
Like within your work, there's always been
a global virus. Really, that's right up our street.
What I mean by that really is there's always been a really strong element of sci-fi in your work, hasn't there? It's like all the way through.
What's annoying about this one is it's the most boring sci-fi film I've seen. Do you know what I mean? It's not, it's just not playing out with triffids or zombies or anything yet. I know there's time, but
it's got a touch of the war of the world, to be honest, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
We're all going to die. Or tripods.
No, but we're all going to die.
No,
but we are the aliens. We are dying of the cold.
We're going
to die of a cold.
Oh yeah, you're going down. Spoiler. But
you're sorry, if you haven't seen that movie.
Down that kind of route. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, no, it is. I know the drill.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, where did that sort of love of sci-fi, and in particular, I guess, the music of science fiction, television, and films, sort of first take hold with the two of you?
I think growing up in the 70s and being sort of bombarded with the radiophonic workshop music from kids' programs, TV programs, and things like that, and the kind of, do you remember, like
Lost in Space is where it all started.
That was one of the earliest things I remember. Jerry Anderson, all of that stuff, and there's lots of sci-fi, I suppose because we grew up in the sort of immediate aftermath of the space race, so everything was kind of space orientated and that kind of thing. What else? There were all the sort of 6 o'clock sci-fi Wednesday films where they'd show all those, but I was thinking more films like The Day of the Triffids and The Incredible Shrinking Man and all that kind of thing. It was great. So I was getting to see all these great old black and white classic sci-fis, as a kid. And Doctor Who, of course, more radiophonic workshop madness.
Yeah, and obviously you covered for the All Together and also in your live show for a long time the theme tune, the Dee Dee Derbyshire, Ron Grainer theme tune. I should ask you therefore at this point, I mean, were you proper Doctor Who fans, like what they were called Whovians, or just casual fans?
Whovians.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I would say I was as a kid, because our parents were very sort of strict about family dinner time. You all sit around the table, very, good sort of upbringing in that kind of way, except I was allowed to sit and eat my dinner on Saturday night in front of the telly to watch Doctor Who, because dinner time was when Doctor Who was on. Bad planning, from my parents' point of view, but I used to go and sit in there and watch it. I think it was a free pass for anyone who wanted to, but no one else really cared. So I used to sit and, watch Tom Baker on my own.
I was much more Lost in Space boy sort of thing. That's what
Star Trek as well. Let's not forget.
Oh, Star Trek.
I mean,
look at me. Look what I'm wearing. Look at me. Look.
All generations.
It's not really having an influence, is it?
To be fair, Star Trek has obviously made an appearance, hasn't it, in some of your tracks?
I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Sample form, so.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
We'll move on. I mean, obviously, the kind of sci-fi thing and film soundtracks is one theme. Obviously, it's been in your work for a long time, but also activism as well. Certainly, to environmentalism. That's.
Yeah.
Going back to really the first couple of albums and Impact, I guess, as well on the Brown album.
Yeah.
People remember. Now you played, didn't you, for as part of the Extinction Rebellion protest?
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
How was that?
That was great fun.
That was great.
Really good.
Oh, I'm losing my thing. It was quite fun because the last demonstration I was at was the poll tax demonstration. Actually, where I was throwing rocks at like the police riot vans, which was quite funny. And then next thing you know, because there wasn't, Greenpeace and all that, Extinction Rebellion came along. It was like the non-violent sort of thing because Thatcher put a stop to any sort of political demos that are worthy anyway, and all that. And there they are. They've like stopped the whole play. They've stopped Trafalgar Square for like 2 weeks. And it's just like brilliant. And then we played a gig there, did a few DJ things to help fundraise for like people who got arrested to help legal fees and stuff like that. But they're a bit fluffy around the edges, but they're just starting, and it's great. It's like, but. And it was like, I don't know, for us, it was like the calls that came along that was sort of picked us up again, I suppose, picked me up again. And thought, well, OK, they're worth sort of going along and joining in with.
Saving the planet, a worthy cause.
Well, yeah, it's a little too late, really, if you ask me, but that's my
I guess you came through at a time when there was that tension between rave culture and the police, and the Criminal Justice Act as well, which you obviously were quite outspoken about at the time. Just to rewind a little bit, to go a bit further back, I'm quite interested in finding out about, we're in Leeds today, so I'm interested to hear about the first time that you came and played live here in Leeds. Or the first PA, I guess, you made. So when was that?
It was a live performance. PA normally implies miming, doesn't it?
Yes, like Top
we
of the
didn't
Pops,
do. Yeah. Top of the Pops was it mine?
Yeah,
that wasn't. But everybody mimes on Top of the Pops. That's Yeah, I wasn't. Never been comfortable about that. But no, Leeds. It was one of our earliest gigs. We did a little mini tour, didn't we?
Warehouse.
Yeah.
With Sasha.
With Sasha, yeah, the Warehouse. It was brilliant fun. It was 1990.
We stayed in Sasha's mum's house, didn't we?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Sasha's mum's house, all of in one room, and it was at David Holmes' house.
We did do that at David Holmes' house as well, but I don't know if it was Sasha's mum's house. It was someone's house in the spare room. We were all just laid out on the floor.
Sparrow was it? Oh, whatever.
Yeah, anyway. It might have been Sparrow's mum's house. But
I think like all rolling in at 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's what it was like, though. Back then, it was the whole of the dance music scene, certainly in the UK, was run by happy evangelical amateurs. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't really about, nobody was thinking about making money. The good people, any of the people you kind of met, like, people like Sasha and their club, it was all about, look, we've got this place, we can play house music at people and everyone's coming, isn't it brilliant? And come and play live. And, yeah, of course. And, that was great. We kind of ended up hooking up with loads of different people around the country, didn't we? Like going to Belfast to meet David Holmes and things like that. And everyone had this same kind of enthusiasm and come on, look what's happening, and was really trying to create something. It was these little puddles of this kind of thing that would turn into rave, sort of just growing out of what was, a nightclub culture before that was pretty much, sort of bad pop disco music and get beaten up at the end,
And sticky carpets.
Sticky carpets. Well, to be fair, raves had sticky carpets. Don't
care.
pretend anything else, But it was all of a sudden it was a unification of people being friendly to each other and boys and girls talking to each other, and there not being this kind of tension that used to go on in the nightclubs used to be frightening places before.
Because of ecstasy, right?
Yeah.
Ecstasy,
and dance music, I say.
Yeah, ecstasy and dance.
Let's not just blame the drugs.
Yeah, but it's not blaming it. It's like a good thing that it came along, with my opinion. It did quell the macho.
Yeah.
The macho.
Absolutely.
So we
sort of violence, the macho violence.
Yeah, but it's interesting when you talk about, Thatcher did have, you say the tension between ravers and the police. I mean, the police just do what they're told, really, and she spent huge amounts of money getting Metropolitan Police coming in and, stopping little squat parties and stuff like this. It's like, what is the matter with them? I can only think that she didn't have a cut of the ecstasy market or something like that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's because you've got alcohol wrapped up and tobacco. And everything else, if you think about it, really.
There were certainly a few promoters, weren't there, who were quite Thatcherite and who had come from sort of more of
But
a
the energy
background
crew.
where they'd kind of worked in the city and things like that.
Yeah, there were those big kind of raves, weren't they? Energy and Sunrise that were very corporate feeling, very.
But you could
kind
tell
of,
as soon as we walked in, you could tell whether there was somebody that did it because it was the love of music. Also,
like James Barton.
Yeah, look at him. Look what happened to him. He did it for the love of it.
Tiny little bass.
He made us play for chime for about half an hour, wasn't it?
So there was nobody in his club. But he wanted to do it. There was nobody there. We played our set. Someone else DJ'd. Then he said, "Oh, go on, do chime for us again, will you?" At the end of it,
and again,
so, just him and his mates, and he kind of said, "I've got this vision of taking over this big warehouse." He showed me this room upstairs, and I want to do a big club in here. And I thought, yeah, good luck, mate. Looking at downstairs, but Jesus, look what happened.
Yeah. So what was both of you, your first experience of kind of, well, a rave, I guess, or a party during the kind of acid house era? Because you grew up in Sevenoaks, didn't you?
Yeah, it was local stuff, actually, which was good, because that was the DIY ethic, though. That's the fun aspect about the whole kind of rave thing, is people did think, have you heard this music? That was the first thing, hearing the music and thinking, oh, that's good. And then, where'd you go and hear that? Well, you don't. And then sort of the people... people used to do parties in Sevenoaks and sort of Tunbridge. There was a big culture of sort of doing squat parties and in the woods parties and things like that. And so the guys that were DJing at those things, they were obviously kind of alternative DJs. They weren't playing in the sort of horrible Mecca nightclubs. So they were into house music and rare groove, and it just went from kind of Public Enemies through house into acid house. And that's the sort of things that were going on. I mean, the Grasshopper was, I think it was called Roadblock, the club there, went from a kind of rare groove club on the border of Kent and Surrey into a full-on acid house thing on a Thursday night. Really cheap, like £2 to get in. Free if you go in before 10. And it was like, it was brilliant. But these things were just springing up on their own.
I used to go to warehouse parties, and it was before house. They used to be playing like electro and hip hop, and proper scratches and all this sort of stuff.
Sort of rare groove, that kind of thing.
But and all that. But it was a lot of electro and hip hop, really, to be honest. Well, I suppose, there was actually rare groove, like Scar and up and down East London around there. And then that sort of. Then there was the Mutoid Waste parties, which they were fantastic.
Yeah, they were brilliant,
that artisan lot. I mean, they've turned into what they call now Arcadia lot. That's all the kids or the sons or children of the Mutoid Waste. They're an artisan. They squatted this big, huge warehouse at the back of King's Cross. I mean, it's probably a hotel now or something like that, which I think pretty much is. But you'd go through a little door, £5, you get in and you go over this rickety thing, and then they'd have like this. It'd be amazing. It'd be like this weeping willow from, like, when you shave a piece of wood or metal and it all curls up. There'd be like this weeping willow made out of metal and all like this. They'd have a dumper truck, like, chained into a woolly mammoth. It's all Mad Max shit. And they'd have, like, punk band over in the corner and people firing, juggling, and all this. It was like a scene in the movies, really, really good. And then in the corner, they'd have a little room, big smiley face, and we just saw it was like flashing lights. You go in there and it's like you're off. And then they had Clink Street, didn't they, down in... Who did Clink Street?
Clink Street was amazing. I remember we went there one time.
Clink Street,
First time I'd ever been to a London kind of rave. And there were all these kind of real casual-looking guys that I just thought, oh, shit, we're going to get the crap beaten up out of us. They were doing a conga, chanting ecstasy and smiling at everyone. And it's like, what the fuck has happened? And that's when I realised, OK, something's changing around here.
But like...
Went to the bar, Ribena or water. Ribena or water. It's like mental. I can't buy alcohol. And it was like...
Great.
This was... Yeah, I know. It was, and that was Mr. C and Evil Eddie Richards playing all this Detroit techno. It was amazing.
So when did
No, sorry, that was... I was saying, but that's where we had torch glasses, that thing? Like, you're in smoke and you go, what the fuck? I got trying to see a little LED, like, little thing like that. So then a mate of ours came, I've got these in New York, little plastic cheap things, like $6 or something, and space age gifts, isn't it? We found that out.
$14.
So I used to buy the frames and cut them out and strap mag lights to them so we can actually see what we were doing, and that's how that all developed from those, because all you need is smoke and strobes, really, and some music.
So were you already, before you sort of had your first experiences of rave and ecstasy and so on, were you... if you obviously...
No, I did, yeah, totally, I love it.
Of... What? that culture, should we say.
Sorry,
were the two of you already making electronic music?
Yeah, I mean, sort of the music had been going on for ages. influenced by that earlier pre-rave. It was influenced by kind of, sort of things like Cabaret Voltaire, Kraftwerk, New Order, then onto sort of Bobby O and Divine and all that kind of thing, and then electro, and then house music came along, and we were like, it's electro and high energy mixed together. Nice, excellent. Let's have a go. And it just kind of got into the mix of what we were doing naturally. But you know, I come from, well, we both do from different generations of punk background, so that's where the kind of commentary comes. So it's just natural. It's like, well, yeah, but house music, it's not saying, it's just not saying anything about the things that we like to say about. So we kind of just bring that in naturally. You don't think about it. You just kind of see a hole. It's like, oh yeah, that's not happening. Let's do that then.
We're an electronic band rather than we make music for the dance floor. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, drawing influences from from us, from what we love, and you know why
but
not?
It's, you know, we did our first gig before Chime came out. We did play Chime at our first gig, and we're actually playing tonight an old track that we played at that first gig that we ever did, and we've never played it. We've never played it before since. I've never released it or anything, because we toy with it every now and then. We go, should we get that track one day out and see if we can do something with it? And we kind of then always put it back in the box.
I think that's like Calvin Harris's new project is like, what would Calvin Harris do? It's like, look at him. He's like going back to rave. It's like, right, we're going to drink that track out there. We're going to like see that.
We never released. Hang on.
Is that
Let's
mine?
get it out. Yeah, that can be yours.
Yeah, thank you. So where's the
coronavirus included.
Well,
but no, it's
put me off now.
I'm only joking.
No, I know, but you might.
Well, I don't know who touched it, but
you know, like, do you know what I mean? I'm not risking it.
And that's the start of your sci-fi movie.
High
right
risk,
there,
high risk, high risk. What?
No, but we just thought, you know, let's drag it out. Let's see if we can do something. And we had good fun with it at the end of last week, and just decided to throw it into the set. And it's kind of interesting. After 30 years, we're playing a 30-year-old track that was played at our very first gig. So hopefully this won't be our last gig. But you know, so nice. You know, it's a nice kind of thing to do.
It could be the last party. It could be the last party, guys. Let's face it. It could be.
Well, before public gatherings are closed.
I'm saying it could be. You never know. You know, you've got to live each day, live in the now, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's hope not.
Let's just get till tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah. Let's just keep pushing on. When was my memory is that obviously Chime was a huge success, and the first couple of albums too were successful, and also in particular this sort of the Brown album and Snivelization. You were very quickly kind of accepted, I guess, by the rock music press in terms of you kind of crossed over to more than just kind of ravers.
Yeah, well, that was it, yeah, because there was a lot of... Because this is when we go back to, it was called house music, we go, what's the... Well, because of our interest, actually, it was... Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say now.
I think what Philip was trying to say...
I just got mesmerised by your little cheeky little face.
No, I think...
What did you say? Well, so, I mean, mind up front.
Jesus, I can't take the tension.
See, it's a lot of energy in this room.
That's actually the second glass I've dropped today.
Luckily, that's not plugged in. But
yeah. Would you say?
It's not plugged in.
What are you saying?
Would you say this is going well?
Yeah, it's going really well.
Do you want this glass of water?
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's just gonna remove my phone from the situation.
Yeah, where were we?
Oh, no, I know. Crossover.
Yeah. You know,
crossover. Because sorry, I didn't remember what I was going to say now.
I knew what you were going to say.
The house music, all right, and we're going, oh, great. I thought it was great because at the time, the Enemy and the Melody Maker and people like that, traditionally rock and, you know, indie rock sort of people, they go, disco music, bloody disco music, and all this sort of thing. And we're going, it's a little bit deeper than that if you want. If you want it to be deeper, you know, sort of like it's all to do with, it's like the prog rockness of the instrumental world, which has got very similar in prog rock, electronic prog rock, indie sort of rock and roll sort of thing. So
I just think it's because we had riffs.
And we stuck in some guitars and like a few, you know.
Yeah, but it's not just guitars.
Attitude.
You look at tracks like Impact and things like that, or even Lush, it's got kind of really obvious riffs that go round, but quite harmonic and melodic, and it's kind of, you can stand in a field, hear it for the first time and go, oh yeah, right, I get that. And it's like listening to, you know, when you hear a good rock band like Queens of the Stone Age, and you might not know the record, but they kind of start and you go, oh yeah, that's great, I love it.
But that's what...
You know, I mean, would you say that there is, I mean, how would you describe the kind of Orbital sound? I mean, I could say, okay, listening to your catalogue, there are, you know, strong lead lines, sort of melodies, big riffs, you know, there's a kind of filmic sci-fi thing going on, soundtracks, the grooves, you know, the political and social commentary, you know, that all comes together. That's the Orbital sound. How would you define the Orbital sound?
It's pretty nice. I don't know.
It's the worst possible question to ask an artist.
I would say the words harmonic content come to my mind. That if there isn't that, I'm not happy. Do you know what I mean? But you know, it could be inharmonic as well. Some tracks that we do, but it is. There's something, even if it's a rising kind of motif or something like that. It's just kind of, if it fills you with emotion, it's got to be emotive for me, one way or another. Even if that emotion is the sort of crazy emotion you get from listening to bands like the Cardiacs, you know, which is like, whoa, what are you doing? You know, but it's got to have, it's got to leave you feeling not emotionally neutral. Do you know what I mean? If you listen to the song and it's like, don't feel any different. You've got to try and affect change with the music, I think.
It affects you emotionally, I suppose. That's what we look for. Or a groove, a really good.
Yeah.
You know,
Whether that makes you jump up and down, or
cry,
or laugh, or whatever. You know, could be any of those things. But apart from that, the gloves are off. Do what you like. You know.
So, was there a kind of a moment? Obviously, we're now here at a point where we can talk about 30 years of Orbital. So, was there a moment when the two of you kind of went, not we've made it, but okay, something's happening here, something special is happening?
Chime, really, to be fair. We got sort of fired out of the sort of, like, it felt like sort of being fired out of a human cannon, do you know what I mean? Like, sort of throughout the 90s. It's just like, Chime happened, and it happened really quickly, and then there were 6 record companies trying to buy it while I was still washing dishes in a pizza restaurant. And then I had to change the rotor in that pizza restaurant to go on Top of the Pops. How crazy is it? You know, it's like saying to Karen, I can't come in on Wednesday. He said, well, you know what it's like, you can't change the rotor once it's done. I said, no, I can't come in, I've got to go and do Top of the Pops. And she just screamed, grabbed hold of my face, went, you know, I'll do it, I'll bloody do it, you know, whatever. And it was just crazy, you know. I didn't go back in the end. You know, it's...
There've been a few other moments along the way, though, that kind of in hindsight seem significant. So Glastonbury '94, I think
side effect of that was the crossover thing. That helped because everybody were gagging for it, and Michael even say we were a little bit stuck in the rock and roll sort of thing, or just didn't understand, or didn't, I don't know, whatever. You know, they had people like the Orb and the Shaman, which you know, but people were just like, oh well, the electronic sound was going off in little woods and little parties afterwards and things and bits and bobs, and that, you know, if you knew all those places. But on a big stage, we just came on it, you know, sort of through the back door sign, and after Bjork, I mean, you got a load of Bjork people there. It's like, well, I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like really, well.
What could possibly go wrong?
I don't really. So I'm saying, it's just like, got there, we come on, we didn't know we did know what we were doing, but we were playing an album, actually. That was a tour, that an album hadn't even been out yet, because there's been a mix-up in releasing the album, so nobody, not everybody knew us anyway, nobody knew it, but we had like...
I was going to say, you know, normally you do a greatest hits for a festival set. We didn't have a greatest hits. Do you know what I mean? And also, it's like, even if we did, it's like the first 500 people were our fans. Everyone else was just there. They kind of thought, bit of raving, nice one.
But everybody, the whole crowd,
whole
crowd was just went, God, it was just magical. And it was just one of those, gezellig, they call it in Dutch, you know. It was one of those moments where, it was just brilliant. And it was just fantastic. And that helped Michael Levis now going, oh, wait a minute, 2 guys pushing buttons and twiddling knobs and like that. People, that's all right, isn't it? You know. And then the next year they had a big dance tent, and now this year we're supposed to be closing the whole dance field, which was from us. It helped the side was supposed to be. Yeah, apparently, you know. It's all right. Why didn't you know that? Fuck you guys, come on! You used to be so much sharper than that.
we were until he blew the announcement on them.
Well, I was not supposed to say that. Well, nobody told me.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're not supposed to say it or not. But
no, well, this is
now
the
plan. You said it, it's got to
happen. This is the plan. We've played on. It's been fantastic. We've had brilliant things. We've done wonderful things. You know, like over the years. It's just like Jesus, like Another one was the Paralympics, opening up the Paralympics and making Stephen Hawking sing. They gave us his speech, and we've recorded him, and he's only got the torch glasses on. For him, he's such a laugh. He was such a laugh. He was such amazing, you know. He's taken his torch glasses, he's put his torch glasses, he can't see a thing because his glasses are like that thick, you know. So he's coming on, sitting there like, with the World Hadron Collider, you know, doing that. And we're like Paralympics, like, we've got an honorary member of Orbital for that night, and it's just like, it don't get much better than that.
We go for all the
It's
science
like, Jesus,
nerds.
that's not what I'm saying.
Science fiction element, you know.
So are there any other
Mixed-
sort of honorary members of Orbital that you know? Is there anybody out there that you would make an honorary member if you could? Or I mean, obviously you've worked with quite
Madonna,
a few
straight away.
people,
Justin Timberlake, I'd go for them two, straight away.
Kate Bush.
Yeah.
I'd have Kate Bush on the team any day. You know. There's I would have had Scott Walker.
Yeah.
You know.
And you again.
Well, you know, we sampled him.
Yes.
You know. But there's loads of people I'd have.
Yeah. One of the things I find interesting looking at the images of that Glastonbury performance, sort of from behind the stage, is just how insanely big your live setup was at that point in terms of all of the equipment. I mean, how has it evolved over the years? Do you still take the same amount of sequencers and drum machines and so on on tour?
Yeah, it's the same amount of stuff. It's got smaller though. The equipment's got smaller. Whereas we used to have to take all our big old blunderbuss kind of old sort of vintage synths. Well, they weren't necessarily vintage back then. They are now. Yeah. But you know, nowadays you can get like something that's the size of a Jupiter 6 into a box that big. So we take a lot of smaller things. You know, instead of a big old mixing desk, we've got 3 little, you know, controllers to mix within the computer, which serves as the sequencer now and the sampler. You know, so that takes away the big racks of samplers, but the effect and the freedom is still the same.
We're still improvised. So you have all the bits. So you have the bass drum, you know, hi-hat, all individual bits. Like there's no song mode or anything like that. There's no backing track. So you haven't got. There's no fixed arrangement.
No. I've had
It's like when we want a bass, you go boom like that. I want a bass
tracks.
drum, and then I can override it with the little controls. Now it used to be a mixing desk back in the day, but you know, and so if he puts a bass drum in, I can take it out over there, or if I want. Hey, no, I don't like that. Oh no,
we have only ever once both taken stuff out at the same time and left silence.
Nothing.
And gone. You know, when that happens, you just have to count.
3, 4.
Yeah, because
we've got, for example, we've got 2. You know, I told you about the oldest track. We've got one of the newest tracks as well that we're going to play tonight. We just decided to do this on Wednesday. We just said, should we put a track in?
This is it.
And then we were like, well, that track, and well, I'd like to put that track in. Should we see if we can put both of them in then? And so we just did it, and I was kind of messing with it yesterday, sort of, you know, running through permutations and versions and how you can do it. And at sort of 4 o'clock, I thought, I think I'm done. It's like, that's leaving an hour earlier than I normally do. And I thought, fuck it, no, it's good enough. I know, but it was good enough. You don't want to over-egg it, you know what I mean? Because then you sort of fall into a pattern of how you play it. Whereas tonight, I really don't know how those 2 tracks are going to come out, the arrangement-wise. So I'm going to have to start and just watch the audience go, that's working, that's not working. How do we make that work? Switch that off, turn that on, do that, you know, and
it helps you develop an arrangement for them recording, or even sounds, or you know, whether
these tracks
trying
are
things
unreleased,
out.
so
you know, trying things out. So. And,
have you worked that way a lot over the years in terms of things being performed live before?
No, in the olden days. In the olden days, we did. Like when you go back to, because you know, like one of the tracks we're playing tonight, you know, we had. So the first few years, a lot of the stuff, a lot of tracks would develop out of playing live, where you'd be doing something. You know, some clubs would give you 20 minutes. Some you'd get 40 minutes, and you know, you play somewhere like we played for Evil Eddie Richards in Milton Keynes, and we were playing, and everyone was loving it so much they didn't want us to stop. So it's like, okay, let's grab the drums from that, the bass line from that. That's 303, and this thing's going through the filter, you know, okay, let's try that. And you just kind of start jamming stuff, and then next gig, you go, that was good, wasn't it? Let's see if we can add something to that. And you kind of do stuff and start building tracks in sound checks and things like that. And then they ended up becoming singles.
I mean, was it, at that point, was it a much when you were starting out, I mean, with a much smaller range of kit that you had on stage.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, what, like a 303 and a...
Early on, we were using a 6-channel 4-track as a mixer.
303.
303.
Oh, are we naming instruments now?
Yeah. Emax sampler.
Poly
909 drum machine, R8 drum machine.
DX, we had the DX 100.
Did we take that live?
I don't know.
I can't remember if we used to sample it or take it live.
I think probably, I don't know.
And then SH09, of course.
Exactly.
That was it.
So, and I guess that quickly developed when you got into the doing slightly larger tours, when you were sort of headlining your own.
The equipment developed in sort of in a creative, natural kind of way. It wasn't, we're doing bigger gigs, we better get more gear. You know?
Although, but you could take more of the studio.
So we're setting the studio
you
up
could,
on stage,
although to be fair, the first few gigs was literally all of our studio on stage at the same time. It's just like, how are we going to play live? Well, everything's in the sequencer, so if we take that and all these other bits, we can just jam with what we got. Do you know what I mean? So you literally had to take the whole thing with you, didn't you?
You've got to remember, when you're sending a MIDI sequence to a piece of equipment, you've got all the squiggability about, you know, you've got the sound, which is like you're doing it and like, oh, you know, like changing the filters and things, you know, to the actual sound itself, which is the fun part as well, which you can react with the audience and stuff. You know, it comes out raw, the way we do it. It's not all clean and polished, don't forget, you know, so which...
Well, we learned from Tangerine Dream, you know. If I look at Tangerine Dream playing live, it all seemed to be about playing with these huge knobs. In, you know,
it's like an activity centre, you know, babies, like, bing, bing, bong, like, it's like that, but for grown-ups.
Yeah. Just, it must have been... I know, obviously, it's all your equipment and all the tunes and sequences that you've made yourself, but it must have still been, you know, when you're surrounded by racks and racks of synths and drum machines, difficult to kind of keep track of where everything was.
Oh, yeah, especially when you're off your nut.
I don't know, it's kind of... instinct, you know it. You know, sometimes I'd listen, and when you're sort of towards the end of a track and everything's on, you kind of go, is that playing? I can't tell whether that sounds... Sneak it up on the desk. And, yeah,
it's definitely there. Yeah.
But you know, apart from that, I know where everything is. Yeah, I don't normally go to the wrong thing or anything. No, I pretty much know where it is.
I mean, is there a kind of a psychic link between the two of you? I guess as brothers on stage, just kind of knowing
we don't talk much.
Things.
It seems to work. So you know.
Just a nod every so often.
Well, we sort of look at...
Yeah, we smile when it goes well.
The torch guy's so bright, when we look at each other, we go, oh, fuck it, what you doing?
You can't really look at each other.
So here we are, 30 years on. It's Orbital 3.0 is your...
3.0. Yeah,
3.0.
Version, Orbital 3, no, version 3 we're on now. You know, we split up, came back together, split up again, you know.
So what can we expect from that? Obviously, you're touring, aren't you, extensively in 2020?
Yep. Gigs, more music.
We've got 2 new tracks in there already.
Yeah, which were, until Wednesday, weren't going to happen. So, you know, that might keep happening. I don't know.
We've got a new
Maybe
album
by the end of the
coming
year, it'll be a whole completely different set. I don't know.
We've got a new album coming out, but we haven't quite finished writing it yet.
We're still working on that.
And there's other things we can't talk about at the moment. For legal purposes, legal reasons.
Some of which may or may not have been mentioned today already.
Yeah, right.
So just forget you heard any of that, okay? I mean, what is there? Like, obviously, you've been hugely successful over, you know, three decades together, and also solo projects as well. You know, what is there left to tick off your bucket list?
Well, so I didn't even have a list though in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like everything for me. It's just like, you know, like when Chime, I was saying, I was going to go to London College of Furniture, do a furniture design degree. And I had 2 kids at the time. I go, well, you know, can I defer it for you? And I went, yeah. Because we had enough money on in advance to like keep us going and support the kids and that for about a year. So I go, right. And then that's been it. We've done so, you know, it's just the fact that we're still doing it. We've come back. I didn't think we were going to get back together really for this version 3. And it's like, so I'm on bonus time. So I'm loving it.
For me, when I was about 13, I decided I wanted to be Rick Wakeman, you know. And I've never achieved the hair quite, but You know,
have you got the train set in the
And
loft?
and there's two of us in the
No,
band,
I
so
haven't.
this is it. We're
I
sussed
haven't.
out.
No,
Why?
I just mean that picture of sort of a man surrounded by keyboards with, you know, like playing like that. It's like, wow, look at that.
Do you remember that album I used to have? You curled up the foil and Rick Wakeman was all spread
See what
around
I'm
like
saying?
a...
You
You
know.
put it like that and he...
What's not to love about Rick?
he
But
makes him-
yeah, I don't know. No, I've still got loads that I could tick off on my bucket list. Working with Kate Bush, you know, that's one.
I haven't got...
2 or 3 nights sold out the O2. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Itchy.
I'm with you on that.
No,
I don't
no.
know like that. I think
Yeah.
we might make our own little festival.
I know, but it would
well,
definitely be a kind of a
I've got
goal of
ravers
some
in
kind.
disguise, this is it.
I appreciate your concern. You know.
My idea is get an articulated lorry, right? Ravers in disguise. You can have Pampers nappies on or something, well, have it, but when you open it out, you know, the speakers, you've got the stage. And like, do you know what I'm saying? We can do that. I've got a guy that can have a license. Oh, anyway, that's another story.
He's talking about the Transformers movie.
The Transformers Ravers in disguise, don't you say? It looks like we get Arcadia come in and do the speakers and we can set up old school. And by the time we've had the rave, by the time anybody gets wind of it, you know, we can go, you know, we had a...
That's what
we
they
went
used
up
to
in-
say. They used to get shut down.
No, but Dave knows the places.
Okay.
Don't you know the places?
Well, it's true. Phil is referring to a friend of mine, a fellow journalist, who is called Dave, who...
Oh, it's Dave, sorry. Sorry.
So,
You could have got away with that.
yeah, there was a couple of years ago, Phil made a kind of unannounced appearance at a rave up a mountainside in Wales, which was very memorable. There were about 120 people there, and he came and got his laptop out and played a kind of a...
Yeah, it would be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Sort of Ableton type set of semi-live set of Orbital classics. It was...
Chicken shack, in a chicken shack.
Yeah, in a barn, yeah, and there were literally chickens wandering around.
There were, weren't there?
It was brilliant. It was kind of
was
like
really
a
good.
rave, you know, rave revival, wasn't it? Back to
it was brilliant.
1989 or something. So yeah, it was pretty special.
Give me trouble.
So there
Yeah,
you
it
go.
was. Yeah.
So live show tonight. You've already mentioned a bit about that in terms of maybe playing some things that people haven't heard before. Do you tend to like going and revisiting parts of the discography that maybe... I know obviously there's an expectation now, I guess, of a certain amount of greatest hits when people come to see you live, but do you like going and exploring kind of album tracks or B-sides or things that people haven't maybe heard in a live set for a while?
Oh, totally. But you know, you've just got to get a balance, and that's a gut feeling, on overindulging your own kind of crate digging for your past and giving people the tracks that they want to hear. Do you know what I mean? You know, I know there's at least 2 people in the audience who want to hear Remind tonight, but they're not going to hear it. Do you know what I mean? But we know as well that we will bring that one back because that's always been a kind of firm live favourite. Whereas, you know, there's some old obscure tracks that I often think, oh God, that'd be great to do a new version of that. But you know, you just have to find the space in the set. I guess when you're making a set, you'll go one day, yep, that's where I'm going to play, say, Deeper or something, the B-side of Chime. You might go, yeah, I'm going to play that there. But it'll fit. It'll be the right time, you know.
The other question, I guess, that comes out of that is also sort of how do you... Some artists that have long careers don't always necessarily find it easy to keep themselves motivated. So what keeps the two of you sort of motivated and wanting to create new music?
Splitting up and joining together.
Yeah,
It's like a new band.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like the enthusiasm with the music, really.
I think if you get bored, you just have to change it up, don't you? Like we both went in and said, we're doing the same set. You know, I said, we're going to mix it up. I'm going to change things around a bit, but it's like, what can we do? It's like, let's chuck a couple of new tracks in. And all of a sudden you go, bing, and it will just change the way you play the set because it's changed the dynamic. Do you know what I mean? And so that's how you keep it interesting. You know, so we did a run of 5 nights on the trot in Australia with very little sleep in between. And the last one was, you know, you're sort of knackered, but you're kind of wired as well. And I just thought, I've got to change this up now. You know, got to do something. And it's great fun. You just kind of think, that's what I normally do. I'm not going to go that direction. I'm going to do this. I'm going to break it down to the bass line and then see what happens. You know, that's the thing. Because we're improvising, we can do that. We can make it interesting. Whereas, you know, it might have become boring otherwise to play it the same way.
On the tour, because you're doing not necessarily one day after the other, whatever, but you're doing a string of... So you get into a different cycle rather than doing festivals like every other weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
So you do, don't you? Because you're doing it, and things do develop. I think Chinese whisper.
Yeah.
Out of control.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like parts of today's talk spiral out of control, but I think we got there in the end. That's just you, Phil. Yeah, but don't ever change.
Wouldn't be the first. Yeah, no, high risk.
So there you go. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up. I think now because there's another talk coming on very shortly. So could you put your hands together for Paul and Phil Hartnoll?
Thank you.
Orbital.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
There you go. That's that. Well done. So,
Yeah, what do
What do we do now? How do we sneak out?
what do you now? We
Get the tea lady come round.
sneak out the side. So yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Oh!